Shill bidding is the biggest controversy in all of collectibles, yet influencers are most to blame. Perhaps auction houses are being a little too defensive about this topic. We're going to talk about all of this next up here on the Ungraded Truth podcast. Detective Comics set a record for 1.8 million. Nobody really cares.
Who are annoyed that people are asking them questions, is this book banned? That question didn't exist a year ago.
Somebody's submitting like 25 vintage books and getting 15 9.9s.
We always think, how could it ever get crazier? And then it always does.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ungraded Truth podcast, the #1 show in the world, maybe also in the entire universe. We can't disprove it, so we have to assume that it is true for right now. I am joined, of course, as always, by the fine gentlemen on the panel. We got Ryan, Automatic Comics. We got Rob, Neo Cards of Comics, and Manu, the 99 Newsstand. Gentlemen, we did it. 3 episodes. Look at us now. Who could have imagined that we would get to this milestone?
We get syndication now, right? I mean, I think that's what happens after 3 episodes.
I'm retiring after tonight.
I think this is the time where we win awards. We get nominated as the longest running podcast of all time, the longest running YouTube show. And on top of that, we also have the fastest growing YouTube channel in the world. Last week or 2 weeks ago when we talked about it, we were at 81 subscribers. Now we are at 361 subscribers. If you do the math, that is an increase of 10 million%. And it's pretty impressive. But we still need people to go over there, subscribe to that channel, because when we do videos, when we post it on our normal channel, we get 17,000 views. When we post on this channel, we get 87. Thanks, YouTube, for nothing. So go over, help out this channel, and go sub it up. So there you guys have it. But before we kind of get into the show, gentlemen, just how are you guys doing? Another Saturday night. What's going on in your worlds?
I've been sick all week. Got my halls here to help try to keep my voice going throughout this. But I was saying I may just be like the eye candy over here. I can't talk too much. So we'll see how it goes.
Fair enough. What about you, Rob? What's going on in your world?
I've had a nice, quiet, and calm week. No drama, no nothing.
I went to Collector Summit and it was amazing. So we'll talk a bit about that. And I'm back home and jumping back into the eBay and Instagram world. I tell you, when I go do things in the world, I really miss Instagram and eBay. So I'm glad to be just buried in the screen, as odd as that sounds.
I totally understand. The screen is one of my favorite places. But it is cool that you got to go to Collector Summit, because we got a few pictures of you at the summit that we're going to talk about. We're going to get your download overall from the show, which is going to be cool to hear about. But before we do that, I have to say, Manu, your audio sounds fantastic tonight. I don't know about how everyone else in the chat feels, but this is really, really dialed in.
I hope that is an honest review, and we'll wait for the chat to chime in. And Mighty Comics Lawrence, he's with us. I'd like to say I did turn up the gain.
Nice.
That's the biggest news of the week. Is Manu figuring out his audio.
No longer going to get hassled in the chat.
No, it's absolutely still going to happen. I mean, someone has already started. Cosmic Trekker, what's going on?
It's true. Maybe it's too loud now. Turn it down.
Well, we no longer have to shill bid Manu's audio. It will truly sell at its market value from here on out, which is incredible to hear.
No more shilling. That's terrible. Oh, look at this.
I was the only one giving him the ungraded truth about his audio.
Loving CGC books.
Yeah. Well, speaking of shills out there in the comic book community, here's the biggest shill. Manu went over to Collector Summit holding up a Superman #1, the Fantastic copy. Manu, you were there. You were the boots on the ground of everybody on the show here. How was Collector Summit? Give us the download.
Oh man, I am going to sound like a shill here. It was fantastic. I mean, from my personal perspective, my purpose for going was to meet so many of the people that I speak to regularly, but in person. And I love the idea even the way it was described to me years prior, like an intimate show, right? Focused on the collector. I don't go to cons. I don't do too much of the like overly excited sort of thing. And so I was excited about coming to this, and it did not disappoint. Now, I spent very little time looking at actual collectibles because my own like energies were tied up in other things. But the golden age was on display from wall to wall. People were buying, people were trading. There was like trading tables set up in the center where collectors had brought their own inventory to use as trade bait or just to show off. And there was an original art dealer that was representing there. There was one. It's Bashara, Nostalgic Investments, good friend, great guy. I had great conversation with him, and he brought. I mean, I'm not familiar with all of these covers, but there was millions of dollars of artwork on display just brought by him and his establishment, and his friend Mark was helping him there as well. So shout out to the two of them. Great conversation there. I saw some people that we all know pick up some big pieces, six-figure deals right in front of me. Some things that I can't speak about, wait for them to share them. But one of our friends, Arcs Collectables, Brian, he picked up a beautiful Bagley piece, this incredible splash of Venom. Hopefully we show it later, but shout out to him and shout out to all of those deals that I watched go down, both in books and in original art. And then just the conversations taking place in this environment. It was such a welcoming environment. You could walk up to anyone, familiar faces, introduce yourself, tell them who your handle is so they know who the hell they're talking to. And everyone's like friends, but in this physical space together. Now, I only was there for the actual main event day. I didn't realize that the day prior, which was kind of told to me as the tour of heritage, the preview day, I didn't realize that that's kind of a main event as well. So next year, I don't think I'm going to miss that day because everyone had a lot of amazing things to say about the tours. And I kind of want to see what the facilities
different
like.
Ticket, right?
It is. It's a different ticket. Yeah, a different ticket allows you access to both days, and one of the tickets, of course, allows you access to the main day. And so the show, I can't recommend it enough. I think it is a very collector-focused show, like it purely is. There's no fluff, and it's kind of nice, and if you know some of the people, you know what's going on, and you can meet some new people. Great opportunity for networking, certainly. Even if you don't pick up or sell anything there, you never know what's going to happen from the relationships you develop. And then there were things that took place afterwards, quite amazing as well. So quick shout out to Yaniv, who is Stray Flexin, that's his handle. He invited some people to his place for a get together afterwards, and what an amazing home. What an amazing collection. The place is a museum. Shout out and thank you for the hospitality. But so really quick, that is sort of the quick synopsis. I recommend it. Great show. I'll certainly be attending again. It was fun.
Yeah. Well, this is the Mark Bagley piece, right? That Arc picked up. So big shout out to him. That's pretty awesome Venom splash right there.
Incredible page. Incredible page.
But you were also doing, a lot of networking with not just other collectors, but comic book graders here. What's going on with collusion? Shill alert here. Manu, all of a sudden, best friends with Matt Nelson. Oh, look, he sends in books for grading and he gets 9/8 all the time. What's up with this relationship?
Let me tell you. So Matt and I, we have some history, in 2024. Oh, I should have brought it out. He gave me the Hobby Hero Award, and I wanted to thank him for that, of course. And then after that, our relationship might have suffered a bit because I'm quite vocal about certain things that take place in third-party grading. And what I wanted to say to Matt when I saw him here, this was my first time seeing him in person, and I pulled him to the side shortly, and I said, Matt, I just wanted you to know that I have a great deal of respect for you, right? Like my opinions about things aside, when we see each other, I don't want things to be weird between us. And he was he received that very well. And I paid him some compliments and just told him, he is an inspiration to me. He's done a lot in this collecting community and in this industry and in this space. And I just wanted to, say hello, give him a hug, shake his hand, and then we smiled at the camera and took some pictures. And I think that was fantastic. So shout out Matt Nelson. He seemed to have a great day there as well. Tying into that real quick, that original picture that you put up holding that 7-0, this has a bit to do with CGC and Matt as well. So if you don't mind, I'll talk about this a little bit. So this, of course, belongs to Darren, Fantastic Collection. And prior to me arriving in Dallas, Darren had posted something on his Instagram page saying I'm gonna butcher what it said exactly, but it said something along the lines of, when Matt tells you to bring your book to Sarasota for a potential of a bump, you get on a plane or something like that. So I saw Darren and I yelled at him from across the room, and I ran over there. I said, Darren, what's going on with this 7-0? Like, is a bump in the bag? Like, what's happening, right? And I imagined as much, but I wanted to get confirmation from him. Obviously, you heard about and saw the 9-0, and here's that picture. And he knew that Matt Nelson was going to be there, so of course he brings the book for review. And Matt looked at it, and Matt said, "There is a possibility here. Bring it to Sarasota." So I, just like Darren would, I would absolutely be bringing that book to Sarasota. Then Darren said, "Have you seen it?" I said, "No." He said, "Do you want to?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Would you like to hold it?" I said, "Absolutely." Pictures were taken, and I couldn't be more pleased. I did not realize that that book is like, I knew it was a lot, but I didn't know that it's millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. So that's very freaking cool. And I hope it does get a bump, because that'd be a nice feel-good story. And I spent a bit of time getting real intimate with that 9-0, but that's a different conversation. We'll talk about that later.
We will talk about it later. And I do want to revisit this particular post regarding, them talking about the fantastic book, because obviously this is a book that I would assume Matt Nelson was the one who originally graded it at a 7.0. And I just thought that that was kind of wild that he made this comment about how, it could potentially get a bump. And this is sort of coming off of the heels of the fact that we got a new Superman 1 in a 9.0 copy. I also heard from a little birdie that told me that they know the person who owns the 8.5 copy. Needless to say, that person is really, really not happy about it. But it seems like you can be bumping up, your Superman 1s anytime you want these days. Which is pretty wild.
There's some comments in the chat, and I was thinking the same thing. I think in our discussions we talked about this. Like, if you're sending it in for that bump, like say a 7 to a 7.5, I'm assuming you got to pay the regrade fee. They probably get a deal, like either the 20% off or 25% off. But best case scenario, it's still 3% of value. And if that's a $3 million book, you're paying a lot of money to get that book regraded. Like what, 90 grand or something like that, like to maybe add half a grade. Like that's a serious deal. So I'm curious if that's how that works, or if like sometimes with these like really high-end books, if there are conversations that are had, where it's like, because certain grading companies, maybe they want to have that book in their case, like they'll cut a deal. I always wonder if there's like little like conversations that get played out, because I could see it happening. And I honestly, I wouldn't even have a problem with it if it was, because I would understand wanting to have, your grader's name on, wrapped around that book.
I'd like to speak to that, but in a very friendly way. I don't want to get myself in a bunch of trouble here. I got some new friends, I want to keep everyone happy.
There's no pulling. There's no pulling punches.
This is the ungraded truth.
Okay,
what
come on now.
Damn, I should have just kept my mouth
the partially
shut. I set
graded
myself
truth.
up for this.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what I'll say, and we'll get
It's
further
not the crack
into
and
this.
press truth.
That's true, right? This is what's funny? It's a tagline that I never even mentioned to either of you guys, and it occurred to me, and I just never said it. The name is The Ungraded Truth. The tagline is this: the grades are subjective. The truth is not. Hello?
We got merchandise, guys. We got merchandise. Again,
we
sub
actually
up.
we
This
actually do.
channel's gonna blow up. We're blowing up. The number one show in the world. Sub it up. We got merch coming as well.
Okay,
Anyways, you were saying.
so before we get into the nitty gritty of it, there is something that is quite obvious, and I don't think it's obvious to everyone, and I know it doesn't feel right to everyone, but we live in not even the larger world, forget that, but in this community of high-end collectibles, wealthy players, very successful businesses, auction houses and grading companies, people that have been in the weeds of this thing, building this market out for 30, 40, 50 years. These guys and gals know each other. They have relationships, and there's certain privileges, it's unavoidable. And there's certain fun that they can afford to have, and the rest of us just kind of watch and say, that's unfair, or how the hell? Guys, we just got to accept it. Not everything is black and white. Not everything is by the book, well, pun intended. But things happen, and certain people just look at it like kind of a game, and it's kind of amusing right now. The people that are shelling out $5, $6, $7, $8, $10 million, they should probably be aware of what they're buying and bidding on and how things got into certain encapsulations. But Those people are probably busy making hundreds of millions of dollars and probably don't know any of these conversations are going on, and they could probably care less or couldn't care less, whatever that saying is. And the way that I look at it is, someone buys a book for $6 million, it's a trophy. They talk to their friends at the business meetings, at the dinner tables about how they have the biggest and baddest, so on and so forth. And the friends got this Monet and the friends got this vintage watch, yada, yada. And then when it's time to sell, when they feel like their investment has appreciated, they're just going to send it back to another top tier auction house, and it's going to sell to someone else that's got too much money to worry about the details. That world exists, and it doesn't operate the way that we might imagine it does. So that's all I'll say for now.
You're going to have to repeat those talking points and say it a little bit more as we kind of lead into our main topic of conversation here, which is, of course, this concept of shill bidding, defensive bidding, everything that has been going on, the biggest story in collectibles right now, which if you guys don't know, I'm going to read off a little bit of this Collect article that says shill bidding controversy sparks debate in the hobby being more in relation to the sports card world. Rob is certainly going to weigh in when he can, but if he sees laser pointers on his chest, he's going to not be able to talk. So we will pick up the pieces of that conversation. But let me kind of give everyone in the chat a little bit of context over what happened this past week. You guys can sort of correct me if I get some of the details wrong. But within the sports card world, there was a particular collector. Let's call him Schmatrick Schmryan, okay? And he is a very notable collector who happened to have an item that was up at a particular type of auction house, and people happened to notice that he maybe mistakenly or purposely or whatever the case is, bid on his own item. And then he got a lot of heat for it. And then he went on to James Beckett's podcast, founder of the company Beckett. And they talked about this sort of controversy, and they made mention of this new hot word within the collectible world, which is defensive bidding. And to kind of sum it up really quickly, defensive bidding is this idea that you might bid on your own item to prevent it from exchanging hands for less than you would want to do. But it's sort of wrapped under this guise that it's kind of okay, because if you do it and you defensive bid, well, you're still going to buy it yourself. So it's not really that big of a deal. And this is what they were saying, this collector and James Beckett. But that obviously opened up a huge can of worms. We had content creators within the sports card world making videos about it, talking about it. Everybody was, up in arms, obviously, about the whole conversation. And we even had a couple of videos taken down. I mean, I don't know anyone whose video was taken down, but I heard stories about videos that were taken down out there on YouTube channels, which is absolutely wild. But let's kind of table it from there and talk a little bit about this controversy and story. I'll kind of just leave it open to the three of you guys and maybe just get your overall thoughts. And then I want to kind of push it a little bit to where you were going, Manu,
Sure.
and just being really, 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 let's just call it exactly what it is, guys. But what were your initial reactions to hearing about the story?
Yes. So, I mean, my thoughts on this one is it's a complex topic, especially when you're talking about, it wasn't just bidding on your own items. It was the conversation about bidding on friends' items, like have your friend asking you to like bid on something so that it doesn't go below a certain point or that kind of thing. And I have 100% heard about that on the comic side. Like I absolutely know that happens. And so like, it's not like, we know it's not just cards, like that stuff happens. And that's where I feel like it gets gray. Like, to me, like bidding on your own item should never be acceptable. Now I am aware that some states it's actually allowed, like some auction houses, if they're placed in certain states, you can, other places it isn't. I feel like it's one of those things where maybe it almost all depends like what your line is. And to me, like my line is you can't bid on your own stuff. Now the bidding on your friend's items gets a little trickier, because it's like, to me, that's where intent comes in, because if your friend asks you to bid and you wouldn't have bid beforehand, you should not be bidding on it. But if it's something like an item that you wanted, like there was like one of the pieces of art I bought recently, that Absolute Wonder Woman 4 cover. After I bought it, I was like telling my buddy about it. He was like, "Oh, that was mine." I didn't even know it was his.
Hmm.
You know, it was a piece of art that I saw and I was really interested in, and I bid on it and I won it. You know, and so it's like, if you were going to bid on something beforehand, regardless, like, then I think like there's no problem there. But once this kind of like, you know, it's, if someone's asking you to do it, it's no different than themselves doing it in my mind. That's kind of how I look at that.
I want to ask you a question along those lines, that because you just said something and it made me think of something. Now, what if you ask your friend to do it and you say to your friend, now, brother, if you end up buying this thing, it's yours. So be happy owning it. Like, you know, like talking about the intent. If the intent for the person that is bidding on your item because they're supporting you as a friend, but if they fully intend to pay and take ownership, is there some crime there?
I still, in to me, it's still wrong. Like, if you were not going to bid on it on your own, like of your own volition, then to me, it's something where you're effectively bidding on it for that other person. That's just how I interpret it personally.
No, I get it. I think there's a no. It's just interesting thoughts occur to me because advertising is also influencing people to do things. What if?
Well, no doubt you're trying to get people to promote and bid on something. But I guess where the gray area is like, yeah, in theory, Manu, if you have an item and you're like, hey, like Mickey, you want to like bid on it to like kind of just help it or whatever. Like, I know that if I bid on it, like I'm going to pay for it, because if I end up winning it, because I don't want my account with such and such auction house to like get canceled, right? Like, I don't want to
Right.
like not actually pay for it. So I know that I'm at liability there. But I think it is in a little bit of this kind of weird gray area thing where, like, even if I bid on an item, and let's say it's like, there's still 14 days left in the auction, it's not anywhere close to being sold. Frankly, if I won your item at that price, I'm going to be really happy because I'll have a lot of equity in it, because typically it's like maybe the price hasn't gone there. But so there's no sort of harm in that sense. And we've all done kind of these joking, like, hey guys, let me bid on the Superman one when it's $30,000. Like, and that's kind of a fake bid, although I'm going to pay for it. But it does, in effect, create a perceived demand for an item that maybe isn't there. Because there is still this element of like, oh, look, like this thing already has 15 bids on it. Like, which, like, maybe for the person that wants it is giving them this idea that this item is in demand. So there is still manipulation that is going on with it, even if it's really friendly. And I say all that, and I'll finish out by saying, and yeah, and this happens all the time. So
It does.
like,
It does.
Well,
you
and
know,
there's
like
there's
friends
like
do
no
that,
way to
way.
police
people do
that.
that.
Like,
Yeah,
it's
you can't
impossible.
police it,
Like,
right.
you can't police like a friend's account. Like, I mean, it's not going to happen. Now, I know I saw comments in the chat, and I am aware of this, that there are like a number of auction houses where they have it set up that, like, if you have listed the item with your account, it blocks you from bidding on it. Like, that's their
Right.
way of preventing you. But like, it's still like, if you have a friend's account that's bidding, like, it's not preventing that. So it's like,
No.
you can block only so much, and and like, it's unreasonable to really expect more policing than that. It's a world that we live in, and that's in that situation.
I think one thing that's interesting, and I'm just trying to figure this out in my head. I want to say really quickly, bidding or having someone bid on something or bidding on it from a different account, and then you end up with your hand in the cookie jar and you don't pay for it. Absolutely no two ways to look at that. That's completely wrong. Like, that's the definition of, the worst case scenario. But this idea is kind of, I like talking this through. It's almost like, I feel like you're visiting a different country, you're going through customs, and now you're being asked all these questions. Why are you here? How long are you staying here? Like, are we supposed to now start questioning the bidders? What are you bidding for? Do you actually want this? How many of these do you own? What's your intention here? Like, how do you define someone that's rightfully bidding on something or not? The money is green. The auction houses just care that it gets paid for. And what you do as the promoter of a listing to get as many bids in there, is kind of what this whole thing is about. Even the auction houses call up their client list and say, hey, this is really low right now. If you get it for this price, it's a steal. That client might not have considered buying that prior, but now that you've said this $50,000 item is about to go for 25, get a bid in, you've got equity, you've motivated this person that might not have bought that to bid. That is still a standing bid, a legitimate bid, and the money is still green. I'm just asking questions.
Yeah, I know, and that's
What do you think?
one of. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Neil.
No, I was just going to say, I think that's where a lot of this has kind of led to as this story has kind of evolved. I think this has shined a light on, I'm not sure a lot of folks fully understood, myself included, exactly how much nonsense is in the auction house terms and services on like what is actually allowable and some of the stuff that they are actually doing. Like you can have, and I don't know the specific ones, but there are auction houses out there that you can set a blind reserve where nobody even knows that there's a reserve on it, and the auction house itself will bid the item up to the reserve price, essentially behind the scenes, and that's like in terms and services of auction houses. So to Swagglehaus's point,
those are some crazy. Like, I read that article. Yeah, there's some
you might
crazy
be
stuff out
you might be bidding on the item, and maybe you want to spend $100K on it, and you're bidding. And you're getting bid up, and you bid, and you're getting bid up, and you bid, and you're getting bid up. And in reality, you're just bidding against the auction house. You're not even bidding against another person.
That's
until
wild.
it hits the invisible reserve.
That's
the part that I think, like, that's kind of where this story has evolved to now, kind of almost 2 to 3 weeks into it, is people starting to realize what is actually allowable at a lot of these high-end auction houses.
Yeah,
that's a totally a great point. And actually, shout out to Eric Chang, who just donated the $5 super chat, who actually said, can you guys remind me why heritage books rarely have reserves? Because that is effectively what defensive bidding is used for. I don't know if you guys have comment on that, but it was kind of related to.
I mean, we're not heritage, so we can't speak to that. But I mean, most places discourage reserves because reserves, just on their own, they tend to get people to bid less. Yes. I mean, it's either reserves or like a minimum starting bid. Yeah. It's just like, for some reason, it's just like a mental thing that a lot of times, like, an item will actually sell for more if you started at $1 versus starting at 10,000. Like, I remember when I bought my first Startling 49, that Bender cover, I bought it. It was an eBay auction, and it had a starting price of like $9,000 or something like that. And the person I bought it from was a consignor, and he had said, like, he tried to tell the person, he's like, you should start at $1, you're going to get more, because I ended winning it for that bottom price. And he's like, I can almost guarantee it would have sold for more if it started at $1, you know? And so it's like, sometimes those big numbers just mentally block people from participating. And so then, like Mickey said earlier, like just the act of the activity of the bidding, like the excitement that builds around it as it goes up. I mean, like me, like, I posted about that Superman 1 probably 4 times. You know, like, as like prices have jumped up, because it's exciting to see that happen. And that builds demand, builds talking points, all that stuff around the items that you don't have if you have a reserve.
Right.
Well, and they could have reserves, but you just might not know that it has a reserve.
Well, yeah, that was the new thing I learned from that. I don't remember what article it was. It was an article that went through like a bunch of different places in there.
It was Collect. I think Collect had it.
Oh, yeah, maybe it was the Collect article. That was kind of wild. I did not know about that.
Let me really quickly pull up this stuff and just kind of segue this, because it's kind of what we're talking at. But shout out to Sean, Reserved Investments, a friend of the channel here. I had a conversation with him about a year ago where we talked about comic auctions need regulation, and it's just a whole great conversation about his article that he wrote, which was private equity and the lack of transparency in the trade, and we kind of really dove into this topic, and it was kind of getting at what Neil, what you were saying, where it's sort of like, a lot of people don't realize all the shenanigans that have actually gone on, or go on at like maybe the high end of auction houses, or maybe they're not even shenanigans. Maybe they're in the terms of service.
I was going to say, is it even shenanigans when it's literally spelled out in the terms and conditions?
You agree to it.
Thank you for AI. I just happened to type in heritage auctions shill bidding terms, and AI pulled this up for me, and I thought that it would be kind of fun to just talk about what Heritage Judge. Full transparency, the Ungraded Truth podcast is looking for sponsors right now, and Heritage Auctions, we are big fans of you guys. So don't take this next segment as me not endorsing your auction house, but let's talk a little bit about some of their terms, which I thought was pretty wild if you go into it. But let me just kind of quickly read it out, and then we can kind of carry on the conversation. So Heritage Auctions policy is that shill bidding is prohibited, but its terms have been subject to controversy. While the company officially bans the practice of using fake bids to inflate prices, its terms permit employees and consigners to bid under specific circumstances. Consigners can bid on their own items in live auctions, but not in the internet auctions. And the company itself can bid on lots without restriction. So that's kind of what you guys were saying, where it's like the company can kind of do this sort of invisible reserve. And then I thought that this was pretty wild. Consigners are not allowed to bid on their own items in internet auctions, but they can bid on their items during the live auctions. And I realized, like, okay, yeah, if they show up to Heritage, they have to kind of like raise the paddle and bid on their own item. And so like there's sort of this transparency in that it's like, oh, well, Mickey is bidding on his own item. But at the same time,
But why would they buy something they own?
Well, they're defensive bidding, or whatever they're doing.
That's where that's
well, that's the thing though. And that's where to me it gets tricky. I can almost see like a justification for rebuying your item. Like if you're just like, it's up there, it's gone now, and it's at a price that I would personally buy it back at.
You already own it.
But you don't once they are bidding on it, it's no longer yours.
You're paying for it twice. You paid for it to own it. Now you're buying it back. You're not getting a deal. You're buying it.
No,
twice.
you're basically accepting that you're going to lose the buyer's premium or the seller's fee or whatever the agreement was. And it's like, you can see how people can logic this to themselves, how they can justify it. But I still I think the problem is that it creates this sense that there's this demand out there that there isn't. And that's where you kind of run into the problem.
That gets messy. Someone owning the item, being able to bid on it, very messy there. And
I absolutely agree. I think you shouldn't be able to, but I can see how people could justify it to themselves. Like it's all about like, how does somebody logic something out that they can do something? Yeah. And it's like we were talking, or I had that video recently where I was talking about like married pages and things. And there are plenty of people out there that think like, the item was like all those pages were say on the same conveyor belt. So does it really matter if you use them, other pages from another book to complete this book? It's like, it was all there together at one point. And so that you kind of logic to yourself, you're like, oh, then it's fine if I marry these together.
Oh, you make a good point. They're not,
it's things like that. It's just like, how does somebody just trying to see it from how someone else might try to justify it.
No, talking it through with you was great. Cause it's something occurred to me, something so simple. I didn't realize. You're not buying it twice. You're not paying that whole amount of money to someone.
You're paying yourself.
Yeah, that was supposed to come to you. You're losing, just like you said, the fees you're losing. So that was really well articulated. Wow.
Well, and there might be a reason to do that, because let's say you're like, oh shoot, it's going to underperform at auction. Yeah, maybe I have to eat 20 grand, but whatever. I'll just take it to the next auction house or the next consignment page, put a buy it now price. Maybe I get my price because the person who ends up buying it just wasn't watching the auction. And then I wash away that 20K loss anyways. Cause so I can understand why people want to do this with their items. And ultimately, here's where I get it. And Manu, you were kind of saying this, like when you're talking about like the connections to Collector Summit. To me, it's like, yeah, is it messed up? Sure. But like, do we live in a perfect world? No. Like, I just think that we're just in this situation where like, this is like, it's a necessary evil. Like you can't really get around the auction houses, and there's always going to be like shenanigans at play. Now, my one conversation with Sean, which I thought was great, where he was kind of just offering a solution, is he just said like, here's some like just really actionable things that he thinks would be better, which is like, if an auction house does like its own sort of reserve bidding, or an auction house buys an item, he thinks like there should be some regulation about them stating that.
Yeah.
Or like if you buy if one auction house buys another item from another auction house, like that should be stated. Like that seems ridiculous. But other things like rules where it's like, oh, employees of Heritage are allowed to bid on items. Like that was put in the AI controversy thing, and I was like, that seems fine to me. Like I don't know, like because you work at Heritage, you're a collector too. You want to buy stuff, like you should be allowed to buy things. Like that's not a big deal to me.
Why
But
not? Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's just a lot of interesting policies that are there
There
to
are.
protect consigners and sellers and the auction houses, and it makes sense because the bread and butter or the lifeblood for auction houses is to get people to want to sell the items with them and make money, because that's how they get their inventory. Like you're going to go to the auction house that gets the most money.
Yeah, they're in sales. They're not even in the business of investments appreciating. They don't own, they sell, right? So, all of these things that happen in the world of sales. But really quickly, before we move on, back to the reserve conversation, two things I want to say real quick. First, I just want to say, Ryan, absolutely right. The psychology I've actually spoken to the auction houses about reserves and why it's their recommendation to not have them. And I had my own thoughts about them prior as well. And I've seen things, I've never sold anything at a large auction house, right? But I've observed things on eBay, so on and so forth. But the psychology and the way that I'll put it, and Ryan illustrated it in a way as well, is just like when someone has a large starting bid or a reserve, and it keeps saying reserve not met, so on and so forth, you kind of have, especially with the large starting bid, you kind of have this impression that's kind of like making the reserve known is essentially what that is. And it's kind of like you're giving the potential buyer the idea that that's the value. So why would they possibly want to pay? There's no chance of getting a deal if it's that price. If that's what the seller wants to sell it at, that must be market value. There's no fun to have here. There's no opportunity here. So that psychology is somewhat like that. And that's kind of how it was explained to me by the auction houses as well. And then this whole idea of reserve not met, whenever you do that and it says reserve not met, it's very discouraging. It does not make you want to keep bumping your head against this wall. How much money do you have to spend? There's no opportunity to get a deal. That's what it feels like. So I just want to say, Ryan, yes, absolutely great points there. The hidden reserve thing, Neo shared a link to quite a long conversation, but he was kind enough to give me the marking of where to go to listen to about a 15-minute portion of the conversation. And this gentleman that was speaking had looked into 26 different auction houses and their terms and conditions, right? And some of the largest auction houses had this thing about a hidden reserve, and it's still a little foreign to me, the concept. I think I was grasping it, but it was just all kinds of wrong. Like it literally said the auction company is allowed to bid up until the reserve, where one additional bid would put you over or something. Like that's literally like, wait, that's like no intent to buy. That's literally just pushing the price up. That's crazy. Like when did that rule get written and how come no one has dismantled it? Like no one has anything to say about that?
Well, I mean, I guess the question is, it's still intent to buy though, right? Like it's intent, because if somebody is selling it, the auction house, if they're bidding on it up to a reserve, that means the auction house, I'm assuming, is paying that person that price.
I would hope
so. You could say like the auction house has an intent to buy,
but it wouldn't sell. It doesn't.
Oh, I got Ryan back on the team. Look, he went all the way back to
price.
It's okay.
I'm just saying.
The auction house is only bidding it up to the reserve price, then it wouldn't have sold anyway, because it didn't meet the reserve.
Yeah.
Right. Oh. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Because usually the way that those work is when there's the way that I understand it, and that was Jeremy Lee that I linked you to.
Shout out Jeremy Lee.
He does a lot of high-end auction house stuff. The way that I understand it is that there's a reserve. You don't know that there's a reserve, and the auction house can bid up to that reserve amount. So the auction house wouldn't actually win the book. If the reserve, say it's $100,000 item and the reserve is 75,000, the hidden reserve, the auction house is going to bid it up to 74,000.
Okay,
so it never would have actually sold anyway, because they're not going over the reserve amount. Does that make sense?
That's bad. Neil, you said it perfectly. You're right. The reserve's not so yeah. Oh my gosh, that is.
But to Swag's point, it makes it look like there's this frenzy. Like, in all honesty, you could be the only true buyer bidding on it. You just don't know.
Wow.
Wow. But I think that here's the key point. And again, my feeling on all of this is like, yeah, is all of this stuff totally whack, totally shady. Yes, but like, what do you expect? Like, there's a lot of these things that like you're not going to be able to get around. Like, people are gonna do stuff in back rooms that are smoky, with the diabolical plots and all this stuff. That's gonna happen. So at the end of the day, the only thing you can do, I think, as an individual, is just know your price. And if you're willing to bid at a certain level and get an item at a certain price, then to quote Neo, do you really want to know? Like, do you really want to know that you were the only one wanting to buy that item and you were bidding against Heritage or whoever? And I'm not picking on Heritage specifically, but I'm just like, do you really want to know? No, you don't. You just move on, be happy. And maybe that's like, a terrible thing to say and like a quitter mentality, but I don't know. I just don't see how you get around it truly without like the government coming in and regulating.
That was the comment I was going to make. It's like, if you were okay buying at that price, like, I mean, yeah, maybe you could have gotten it for less. And that's annoying to know that maybe you could have gotten it for less. But if you were willing to pay whatever that price was, then like, I don't want to say how big of a deal is it, because I feel like I'm going to get attacked for that. But it's like, it's kind of how it is. It's like, if you're willing to pay that, then so be it, Like, I mean, yeah, I agree with the, do you really want to know? that's kind of, I feel like I'd rather not.
It makes you wonder though, if none of these support mechanisms existed, like how much would this stuff actually sell for? If it was just like a true, let's just run this thing at $1 and see what happens without all the magic potions and nonsense and back rooms. Like, how much of the market, high end anyways, especially, is like propped up on smoke and mirrors?
Well, that's one question I have, though, because I've heard you mention that a few times, that you, like, in your video, like, well, video, I guess I'll say, you said that hypothetical video.
I've talked about that in multiple videos, so it's safe.
So that you felt like that this is why you're happy you aren't dealing in the high end, because but like, I don't know why there's any reason to think that this isn't in any level of the market, like having people bid on their own items or friends bid on items. It's definitely not just $100,000 or $50,000 stuff. Like, absolutely, I'm sure like people have friends bid on $500 cards or books, or $1,000 cards or books. I don't think it's really safe at any level necessarily.
And I don't disagree. I'm not saying things don't happen at the low to medium end of things. I just think it's a lot harder to manipulate an ASM 300 because it transacts so often. I'm not saying that you can't to degrees, but like an outlier sale on that is going to red flag all over the place. If one particular selling platform has one go for 300% more than what that book normally sells for, you're just going to be like, whatever. But when you're talking about the high end stuff, when in a lot of cases there's no comps,
so maybe it's just rare items,
yeah,
whether
exactly.
they're high or low dollar. It's
and I use
like
that
SpongeBob,
example.
super fractors.
Yeah, it could be a super rare $500 item that maybe only sells twice a year. That to me is more open to manipulation than an X-Men 266 in a CGC 9.8.
Yeah, I get that. Yep.
But I think the big takeaway is if you're bidding on these auction houses, because someone in chat mentions, check those terms. They're all different. It depends on the state. It depends on what their individual auction house wants to do. There's a lot of nonsense in there. So if you're bidding on one or two in particular, you might want to just double down and like read exactly what is allowable to make yourself feel comfortable, because there could be things going on that you might not actually like, and you just never even realized it.
Right.
Before we move on to our last topic, I'll throw it out. Does anyone else got anything to add to the shill bidding controversy stay here? I mean, I think there's a lot more to talk about at some point, to be continued. Definitely more conversations to be had. But from one irate side of the hobby, being the sports card side, being mad about shill bidding, to another irate side of the hobby, people not getting their Todd McFarlane signatures. He said, I don't want to sign your freaking book anymore, and close the doors. This post right here coming out of the CGC Comics Reddit page, McFarlane private signing sold out. Are you serious? we're sorry, this event has sold out. Delete order. I'm going to kick it off to Manu here. You were the first person that got me kind of caught up on the situation. What was kind of your initial thoughts on when this kind of went down, or your feelings on it? I know that a lot of collectors were very, very upset about it, but what do you think?
Friends, collectors shared it with me earlier on in the day, and Comic Doc, our friend out in Canada, he's a dealer for CGC as well as PSA, and he had gathered a lot of his customers' books for this submission, and some orders had already gone out, and some orders were still being prepped to go. And prior to this announcement saying that, submissions are closed. Oh, sorry, there was not an announcement. That's part of the reason why it was so upsetting. There was no advance notice. No one knew what happened. You kind of only found out if you went to try to do a submission, and that drop down no longer said Todd McFarlane's name, and no advertising associated with the signing was available anymore either. But prior to that, they had extended the due date from late November to December 1st, sort of sending the signal that you guys are fine, press some more books, you got some more time. And then just people started to realize in that day that the books that they just cracked out, the books that they just purchased from eBay, everything that was going into prep for the signing was for naught. They can't get those things in the mail anymore. Now, so everyone was, well, the people that hadn't submitted yet were certainly disappointed, but I do want to say, and I saw this reel weeks and weeks ago when McFarlane first announced the signing or was doing teaser reels about the signing. He did say, just not in any real clear terms, he said, the due date is such and such, but if certain amount of books come in, literally no number, I'm not, he said, if a certain amount of books come in, I'm just going to be done with it. I'm getting old. I can't sign that many books, something along those lines. But what does that even mean? No one knows how many books that is. That I thought to myself,
it means don't procrastinate on
it does, but knowing
Okay,
Tom,
can I
go ahead. Yeah.
Can I pause you? Let me just show this, and maybe the people in the chat can weigh in, and you guys can on the panel here can actually talk about this. But this is CGC's official press report for this, right? This is the article
Okay.
they put it out in October. CGC announces exclusive private signing with creator Todd McFarlane. They're doing all the thing. Todd's a legend. Send in your books, yada yada, all this stuff. And if you scroll down, it says CGC must receive all submissions for this event by December 1st, 2025. So must receive by December 25 to allow for international submissions. If you're international, you got to put it in by November 14th. Important. Only a limited number of signatures are available for this event, so get your submissions sent early. That's the only note. Granted, it's bold.
Yeah.
And it's
That's
not
an
very
important
specific.
note. They even say that it's important.
Important. Only a limited number of signatures. And then that's really it. And then if I kind of scroll down, I think there's one other thing. All submissions must be received by CGC no later than December 1st to qualify for this private signing event. No change request will be set. So anyways, I don't know. Is this enough to say? It's very still unclear to me that there's going to be a cap, even though it says important. But anyways, carry on, Manu, or you guys can weigh in.
No, I like that you pointed that out. That's important that it's there. It is important. It is bold. But my impression of it was when I heard Todd say that, I had conversations with people about it as well. I hadn't read it there. I just heard Todd say it. But I thought to myself, Todd's a marketer. His job is to create urgency. Does that really mean they're going to close the doors without announcing it? And so we didn't know what was going on essentially. Listen, guys, I didn't get my books in time, and I didn't have I had a select few items, very unique items, and I was going to take advantage of the opportunity to get them signed by Todd. But I missed the window because I read it wrong. Whatever the tea leaves were, I didn't figure it out.
I like Bob Boozle's comment, which is why must collectors be subjected to all this reading in fine print? He's right. This is CGC. We don't read these comics. We
encapsulate books, guys. Come on.
We don't. There's
Nobody in comics knows how to read. That's for sure.
Oh, God.
Where is that comment? Where's Bob? Anyway, shout out Bob. Where is he?
Shout out to Bob.
Yeah, I felt bad for some of the pictures I saw though, where people had stacks of cracked out slabs that they had broken out to send in, and then you're just like, damn it. But I saw someone's response to that when they're like, oh, don't worry, he'll do another one in 6 months. And it's like, no, he won't. He does 3 years between these, if he even does another one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's that's rough.
Well, you got to go to San Diego Comic-Con.
Well, no, the in-person CGCs, or not in-person, the mail-in CGCs I think the last one was 2022, and before that was 2019. It's been a 3-year gap.
Yeah.
And as we all know, even though he goes to San Diego Comic-Con and New York Comic-Con and comic book stores and other events where you could probably get Todd McFarlane signatures, those events are harder to get that nice, sweet, authenticated 10-0 signature in Todd's controlled environment, which again, I'm not going to let this go. This is my tinfoil hat conspiracy. They want people to send it into the signing events, but I got to say, like, it was funny because I had a friend who sent me a picture who was like, listen, he's like, I spent all weekend prepping like windows,
Oh, I
the
gotta
signing
tell you
windows to on all these Spawn ones. He had like 20 of them or something. It was just like so funny. But at the end of the day, can we just call it what it is? Like, if you're a super fan of Todd, you know that you can just go on eBay and buy whatever book you want with his autograph on it. Let's be honest. The people that are mad are all the dealers that were going to flip like 50 copies of Spawn 1. Is that not the ungraded truth, or is that not the ungraded truth?
That guy down there. That's what he was going to do.
I was going to
This was
sell
gonna be
some of the
Wizard,
stuff. Yes.
Wizard one,
But-
not Spawn.
But check this out. Do I look upset? No, I'm not mad about it. There were some things that I don't even want to tell you guys what they were, because eventually I will do it. No one has seen these items that I was going to get signed. I don't care about signings. I don't do signings like that. I don't get all excited and spend all my money for somebody to autograph a book. Todd has signed billions of things. I really don't care. There was some certain unique pieces where I was going to keep one or two for myself and absolutely profit from selling the rest of them. But it is what it is. It's not a big deal, and I'll wait for my opportunity. But something, I don't know if this is worth mentioning, but I'll say it anyway. We're having a conversation, whatever. I'll leave the dealer's name out, but I was on a live stream, and there was a dealer selling a bunch of McFarlane books, and people in the chat were like, but this thing's got canceled, and the dealer seemed to be a little caught off guard by it, but said something interesting. Said, don't worry, if you buy them from us, we have a special relationship. Your books will still be submitted because we haven't sent ours in yet either. And that I thought was interesting.
Or maybe they think that, and then they'll find
maybe
out.
they think that's
the question,
or they're just saying that to keep selling books.
It could be, which is dirty. I hope that's not the case. I mean,
I don't know
which
how this works.
Better
like
or worse.
If you had completed your submission form, I'm assuming you could still send in, or is it that if they had? That's where I haven't read the fine details on this. I don't know. So
let's reevaluate the very, very specific language. CGC must receive all submissions for this event by December 1st.
Right, but so if you can, like, because the person that had that screenshot, that was them trying to create their submission, and that's what got prevented. But if you'd already created your submission, I'm assuming you could still send them in. So it's possible that they have a submission built out for like 500 books or something like that, and they're just like, oh, I'll just plug these ones in here as I go. And they did like one of those generic submissions where you don't even have to put in the content. I don't know if you can do that with Signature Series or not, but they could have some way around it where they've already pre-built their submission and have it completed and just need to populate it with the books.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's interesting. So if they're doing it based on the submission count, let me just ask you guys, how many times have you guys created a submission but not followed through? Because I've done that before.
Many times.
Exactly.
But they may assume a percentage. They're like, we assume 10% of these we won't get, or something like that. Yeah. Or now all the people that have them ready, they're like, oh dang, I'm going to send them in because now my McFarlane signatures, at a premium or something like that. Or they'll sell their submission.
But shout out to everyone that got him in, because they're all going to get full Todds. Todd was very adamant about saying no one's getting a T dot. They're all getting full
did he
Todds
say that?
Out of this. Yeah, he said that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, they should have been sending him in then.
And you guys get a shot at the custom scroll. He did the vintage custom scroll, unlike the more modern custom scroll label from the last time. These things, even though I'm not big on custom labels, those Todd scrolls I'm big on. This is cool for you guys, and congratulations on getting your orders in.
Yeah. Well, shout out to the people out there that want to get their orders in and really dive in deep to the signature game, because CGC recently came out with their new feature, which is the Signature Series Breakout. I thought we could just quickly touch on it and see if you guys had any thoughts about this. If you guys don't know, in the chat, Now CGC in its pop report has the ability for you to click in and see how many of a book was signed by which person. So here I have Amazing Spider-Man 300. If you click into the signature series, you can scroll down and it'll tell you exactly that Al Milgrom has signed 6. One of is a 9.4, one's a 9.2. Andrew Garfield has signed 5. Only one of them was a 9.8. Maybe that's the most rare collectible to own. And of course, Todd McFarlane has signed 5,023 CGC.
That
Amazing
number
Spider-Man
was
300s.
crazy to me when I saw that, because like that's an eighth of all the graded copies. Like that's crazy that 1/8 of all ASM 300 graded copies have been signed by him. I'm curious what the Spawn one is, but click on that Todd McFarlane, because there was something else that was really cool in this that maybe leads to what could be a potential future update. Then click on Todd McFarlane again on the top, and now you get the page quality breakdown.
Oh, that's nice.
And so like that's something we've never had before. And so I'm wondering if we'll eventually get that on Universals, because I thought that was a really like that's a cool addition, because that would be real. Now, granted, I know you have resubs and all that, so it's not going to be 100% perfect, but there are certain books like Amazing Fantasy 15 where I know like the white page copies are considered to be super uncommon. And so like that could be something that really helps like drive interest and value and whatever else in certain, page qualities on books.
Well, I've always said I think that they're building
Man,
out
I
these
wonder
tools.
why they would be making all these pop report updates. For,
I mean,
feeling
I talked
pressure.
about that in my video. I'm like, this is what's good about having PSA now. Like this drives improvements and changes, and like that's good that this stuff is happening.
It is good.
The interesting thing that we know, or at least we've been told that PSA is going to do, is tracking newsstands from the get.
And Mark Jewelers, everything's broken out.
Yeah, all that little like edge case stuff. And I don't know. I wonder if CGC has that scrolled away somewhere or not.
I don't think they do. That's what's unfortunate, is that even though they started recording like that note of newsstands, everything like 20 years before that doesn't have it. So it's
hopefully they start,
PSA.
Hopefully PSA properly does green and blue label error variants.
Yeah, come on, man. What the heck? Oh, that was a fantastic video, bro. I really enjoyed that. While we're on this subject, loosely talking about population reports, I do want to say that I'm a big fan of what CGC had done there, because there was one book in particular that I knew I had the only Stan Lee signed version of. Someone at CGC had helped me, and when this happened for fun, I wanted to go look it up, and now I can actually like point to the fact that it is, and I thought that was kind of cool. One thing that this also is related to Collector Summit, because there were representatives from PSA there. Our friends Dan and Michelle were there, and it was nice hanging out with them. And they had some conversation with Matt Nelson as well. And the two companies were playing nice. And I'll tell you something new that emerged from that, and I think this is pretty cool. It's not the biggest headline, but to me, it's a strong benefit to the collecting community, and it's going to preserve the integrity of the census or the populations, at least help preserve the integrity on both sides. So they've come to an agreement, because there's crossovers happening on both sides. PSA books getting crossed over to CGC, CGC books getting crossed over to PSA. Now, we don't want the labels to end up in the trash. What we want is for the labels to be collected and sent to the companies that the slabs were crossed out of.
I don't know. I saw that video. They put that label like right in the
They did,
trash.
and that's what started this conversation. And so they've come to an agreement that if a crossover comes in, they're going to collect the labels, send them back to the rightful grading company. So the grading company that originally had the book encapsulated will be able to subtract those cert numbers from the census, from the population reports, and keep them honest. So I really appreciate that arrangement and agreement that PSA and CGC have with one another, where the crossing over and cracking out's not going to stop. But if it happens in-house, they are going to send the labels to the other company so that the companies can update their population. So they're playing nice. They're working together. I can dig that.
Cool. I won't segue yet to CGC versus PSA on that note, since where they're playing nice. But do we have any news of other companies, other potential pop report to share?
Very soon. No, it's the same news that Neo had for us. It's very soon.
What is the news? Are we allowed to say it?
About the population report?
I think
Yeah.
just that's hopefully very soon.
No, yeah, I was excited about that relationship, about the actual labels getting exchanged. Like that agreement was kind of what the tidbit is that I wanted to share. But in terms of the population report, there are some cool things developed, but I am not at liberty to speak on that.
All right. Well, from that story on to the next one here. Shout out to Dave from Comic Book Investments, who had his recent collectors auctions, massive PSA sale, which included the X-Men 266 10.0, which was the feature book that we talked about on last episode's show. At the time in which we talked about it, it was sitting at $8,000. A couple days later, it ended up closing for the whopping price of $10,001. Shout out to Key Collector, who I'm going to use their article here, which they compared the red labels of PSA to blue label sales. We're going to talk about the X-Men 266, but I'm also going to just do a quick Control F to show you guys the difference PSA, meaning when I do difference PSA Control F, you see it pull up difference PSA, meaning that this particular book outsold the CGC version by $5. And I can go to other ones. This particular book outsold the CGC version by $413, and so on and so forth, amongst all the options here. Just to make it clear, difference PSA, 7 things pop up. Difference CGC, 42 things pop up.
CGC to the moon.
CGC outsold PSA 42 times in this article. Now, let's give it a little bit of copium here for PSA. This is Dave's auction house. I don't know if Dave's auction house has the most eyeballs. No disrespect to his auction house. It's a wonderful, platform. It's not going to be able to really compare apples to apples, say, against like the most recent sales of, say, an eBay buy it now or a heritage auction sale, which is effectively what the Key Collector article is doing. But this kicks off our whole conversation about CGC and PSA, and maybe we can start with the X-Men 266 sale, which sold for more than the CGC one. Anyways, I'll throw it to you guys to kick us off. What do you guys think about all this stuff?
I watched Ryan's video on this that he did right after it all ended, breaking it all down. And my big takeaway is, and I'm looking at this through the lens of cards. Yeah, I mean, PSA underperformed more often, but I still actually think it was pretty successful because they weren't really that far behind in most of them. Correct, Ryan? There was a few that were like, they got their asses kicked, but generally speaking,
the average was about 15%. That was
to me, that seems fine. Because I'm used to cards where I look at a PSA 10 and compare it to a Beckett 9.5 or even a CGC 10, and there's like a 40% difference in that price sometimes.
And I know we talked about this some on the last one, where I do feel like, at least with comics, you don't have, like, most of these books that we're selling were like, anywhere from, like, say, like a 5 to a 9. There weren't a lot of the like 9, 8, 10. I mean, I'll say like the X-Men 266 was an outlier. Like, to me, that one performed exceptionally well for what it was, the PSA 10. But like, when you're looking at a book like through a slab, you can do a pretty good job at assessing the grade. And so you're not going to really, I feel like you're not going to have that much difference, because somebody can make the assessment and go, if I buy this, I can crack it out and resubmit to CGC and get whatever grade. And whereas with cards, when you're talking about a 9.5 versus a 10 and all that, it is near impossible to make that assessment from looking at a picture on a screen. And so, I mean, to me, like, I still don't think PSA did bad. I mean, I think it was a successful auction, but they did underperform. I mean, and there were a couple that were bigger, like the Giant Says X-Men one was definitely a big underperformance. It was like $1,000. Like, I assume the person that bought it's already cracked it out, but yeah, that one there. And so, I mean, yes, I don't think it was a bad sign or anything. I mean, I'm cheering for PSA. Like, I want them to hit those numbers, because you want this competition, because that's what gives you improvements on both sides. So, I mean, I want them to do well, but I do think it was about 15% on average that they underperformed from what I saw.
Any of you guys have other thoughts about these particular sales? I mean, what do you make of the fact that, like, again, I mean, it's not quite apples to apples, although we do have some comparisons when Heritage sells a PSA book, because again, this is a smaller auction house. So smaller auction houses, I think, are always selling under market anyways, even in CGC cases. At least that's kind of my experience. But I don't know. Do you guys have any other thoughts about this?
Yeah, I think what you're saying is reasonable. I mean, the size of the auction house and the visibility is certainly has some potential of affecting, the values that the books bring in. But I also, it's just the beginning, like PSA's putting up a good fight. Things are doing well, even though everything's not matching or exceeding CGC yet. It doesn't look like PSA is about to pack up and leave, so more improvements to come, more books on the market, more liquidity, more people get them in their hands, decide which slab do they like. Do they like the substantial, sort of solid, heavy nature of a PSA slab, which a lot, and we've all heard this. A lot of people say, man, I got my first PSA slab. I like it a lot in person, right? So more people are going to have that experience. And then when it comes to the X-Men 266 doing 10K, like, this idea that the PSA 10 is pretty much competing with CGC 99s is a very legit sort of thing, right? The CGC 10, if the CGC 10 remains as stringent or as rarely distributed as it has been, it's going to be the unicorn grade. It is going to be, as we've all compared it, to the Beckett Black Label 10 in cards. And the PSA 10 encompasses what could have been a 9.9 at another grading company, because PSA doesn't have a 9.9. And so it is effectively competing with the CGC 9.9 prices. And that X-Men 266 showcased that beautifully. I mean, a 9.8 is like $450. That thing did like 20 something times the value of a 9.8. That doesn't mean everything's going to perform the same way, but the direction that things are heading for PSA, being less than half a year in the market and CGC having decades in the market, it's hard to not be optimistic about it. Like, it seems like things are going well, and I think they're going to put up a good fight for years to come, and we'll probably see those values get closer to one another over time. That's my take on it.
Yeah, and like I follow PSA on Instagram, and like I see them posting very regularly, and you're seeing a decent number of vintage and like higher dollar books. Definitely not the high dollar at the level of like some of the big CGC stuff, but like at least you're starting to get the $1,000 to multi-$1,000 books that I'm seeing posted on there. And that's what you want to see. You don't want it to just be like a bunch of moderns or that kind of thing. You want them to be competing across all levels.
Did you see the Bone 1 first print 9.8? That was a first print, right? Of
I
Bone
did.
1?
Yeah, I did see that one.
Bro, that was one I was my jaw dropped when I saw it. I was like, am I looking at this correctly? Is this a modern reprint? No, it was the actual Bone 1 first print in a 9.8. That was a dope book.
Yep.
I saw someone in chat ask about CBCS. Can we when are the calling hours? Like, are they I mean, like, I'm half joking, but like, are they just, when's the last time they posted something on social media?
Like a week ago, they actually did. It was about a signing, and I thought of Ryan when I saw them post.
Looking for their booth that wasn't at New York Comic Con.
Yeah, I mean, they're performing about the same right now as PSA, but I don't consider them the number 2 anymore. I automatically consider PSA the number 2, just because they seem like they're on a growth trajectory, like that they actually have a lot of backing, to try to push things forward. Whereas, I mean, yeah, like we've seen, like CBCS, we just don't see that. You don't see them. Like, if it's kind of like there's a guy that I follow on Facebook, and he was talking about, like, people made comments. There's like, oh, he's liking his own videos and his own posts. And he's like, hey, I'm the first person to like my own stuff. If I don't like it, why would anybody else like it? And that's the kind of feeling you get from like CGC, PSA, and CBCS. CGC and PSA are out there like creating excitement and hype around their products all the time. And CBCS is doing nothing. And it's like, if they aren't excited about it, why should we be excited about it?
Great. I'm the first person to bid on my own books that go up for auction as well.
Yo.
I totally agree with you guys. I mean, yeah, the PSA is completely on the upwards trajectory, even if they never say, like, get to that, the peak of Mount Everest, in terms of the comic book secondary market values and things like that with CGC, but they're definitely better primed than CBCS. And yeah, CBCS is just, to your point, Rob, like, where are they? Like, remember when we did a show at the end of last year, there was like some article that came out about like, oh, there's new leadership and new restructuring and like some stuff is happening. But it was like this article that was like, just you wait, 2025 is going to be the year. And this year has been absolutely just like silence from CBCS. So I don't know if they have
I've been trying to tell
anything.
you guys for years and the chat.
Yeah. I mean, so it's just crazy. But you know what's funny about this? Just a little bit of like inside baseball for everybody in the chat here. You know, sometimes I joke with Ryan, you know, about whenever we make a video that's like about a grading company thing, we have like a comment bingo card that is like always going to show up. And a couple of them are like, grading is a scam. You know, I'm done with CGC. But the other one that always shows up is, and this is why CBCS is the best company out there. And it's so funny to me because I'm like, who are the people? Like, I always see you guys posting this. Like, I see the comments. I see that it, like, you know, it might get like 10 likes or something like that. But I just don't know who the people that use this company actually are. But
they try to
anyways.
get the Beckett Black or the Black Labels. I mean, that feels like that's their whole business model right now. It's like try to get, you know, your 10, your Black Label 10, and that's it.
That's actually a good point. That's a good point.
I know we're on a different topic, and I know, Swag, you got the show under control. You probably got the next topic geared up, lined up, but it's kind of on these. It's not. It has nothing to do with the grading companies. It's something that I mentioned to you guys, and I just want to mention in case someone in chat or someone watching this has an opinion about sales and recorded sales. Someone was in an eBay live stream watching. You know, eBay does lives, right? So on and so forth, right? And this is a graded book. And these were modern graded books being sold in a room on eBay with 20 people. And then they put up a golden age book. And apparently it had a starting bid of, you know, whatever it was, right? Less than $1,000 was the starting bid. And one individual in the room who knew what the book was enthusiastically placed the bid. Everyone else was kind of like, what is this old dusty thing? And the book sold for that amount, which was much less than it had previously sold for. And graded items sold on eBay Lives, even auction format, apparently are being recorded by the pricing services. How do we feel
That's
about
right. Is it
that?
all of them or is it just Go Collect?
I didn't actually get that clarity. I'm
Okay.
sorry. I didn't actually get the clarity on that. He did send me a screenshot of the sale, and I forgot what service. Did I send the screenshot? Was it Go Collect that he?
No, but I think you said Go Collect, so that's why I'm just assuming that's the one that it was.
So that's probably the screenshot he sent me. And I just think that's rather interesting because that seems like a very unfair metric, like a closed room. You don't really know what you're buying, or, you know, the audience doesn't really know what it is, and you've marketed it poorly. Should that be a sale reflected and recorded? Just a question.
I mean, it's the same reason people on Whatnot don't put books like that up for sale at auction.
Right.
Like they'll have them as their like fixed price, like sitting behind them or whatever. But it's because it's just, you're not going to have the people in the room that are going to make that a realistic number.
People in chat say a sale's a sale.
Well, that, to the point though, remember earlier in the show when we were talking about like, you know, what would happen if you got rid of all these like protective, you know, reserves and invisible things and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you know what? $1 start everywhere, doesn't matter.
But
let the chips fall how they fall.
But do you sell a steak to vegetarians? If you're in a room and you know no one in there's a meat eater, and you pull out a cheeseburger.
The other side of it, though, is like if it's a huge outlier, it's going to correct itself. You know, like
correct
for the most part, similar to what Neo said with like if you have an ASM 300, because every once in a while you see it, like someone paid like $1,000 more than market for some book, and it just ends up being a blip and it comes back. Like, it should, like, maybe you have this low mark on there, but the other people that own it will be like, well, you should have bought that one, I guess.
I'm not selling mine to you for that price. Good luck. You're right. You make a good point. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a good point. Well, I think that kind of caps out our conversation about the PSA 10 X-Men 266 sale. Although I did think that this was interesting. If you guys know, the Comic Link featured auction is coming up. And they actually have, look at that.
No
an X-Men
way.
266 99 going up for sale. Once
Why
again,
do they only sell on Comic Link? Like they only sell.
Bid on it, Swag. Bid on it. Bid on it.
Like, what
Defend
is
this.
Listen, I already shill bid it. You've been
You did?
outbid on this item, but in my defense, if you guys know Comic Link, the only way to have a watch list for items is if you actually bid on them. So
and you don't
I
own
get
it,
in
so
there.
it's not shill bidding, right? Like, and so,
That's true. That's true. I would
Unless you do own
absolutely.
What if his friend
Well,
asked him to
you
bid
never
on it?
know.
That's
You never
hilarious.
know. Yeah, I may know the owner. I may be helping them right now. You guys don't even know. Perhaps I'm, 4D chessing this right now, and this is actually my friend's book, and I'm advertising it here in the show of the
this is
ungraded
driving
truth.
me
Wouldn't
nuts.
that be
Though. It's like
something?
the last
Swag.
3 public 9.9s have been on Comic Link. Like, why can't one sell on like Heritage or Hakes or something like that, so we can get like an official number out there? Like, I don't understand why
awesome.
they keep showing up there.
Guys, really quick, big shout out to Donnie Boy McCoy, the real McCoy collector. He's having some health issues. He's going to recover quickly. I want to send some love. My man, thank you for being with us. Hope you're feeling well tonight. Talk to you soon.
Big shout out to you then. Yeah, it's interesting. A book I noticed going up for sale, and
That's
we'll have
amazing.
to check back and we'll have to see what this one sells for, because now
Yeah.
that the PSA Tech got the $10,001 price.
I want to
point,
see it go for 10,002.
Yeah, let's go.
Just because that
Hilarious.
10,001 was so weird, because the last 9.9 CGC sold for 10,000, and so it just felt so on the nose, that it went for $1 more. But I would love to see this one go for 10,002.
Does CGC have a $10,002 marketing budget this month?
They've got it. They've
Well,
got
if it
it.
was,
Does
if it was something
CGC
else,
shill
they
bid their
might,
own
but-
books?
Guys, there's
No,
something.
that would be defensive shilling, and that's okay.
Oh, defensive. Defensive is okay. Defensive, offensive, no bueno. Defensive, totally justified.
Oh, that-
No more? Carry
No,
on? Next
no.
topic?
yes.
Next topic. All right, we covered X-Men 266. There was another book we talked about last week that I felt like we should talk about again this week to give it a little bit of an update, because it's going to sell before we do our next show. And that book, of course, is lo and behold,
Damn,
at
it
this
jumped
moment in time, the
Again.
second most valuable comic book ever to be sold, guaranteed. This book will be that. The
Third,
question
right?
is it going to be the
Third.
number one? Well, what's the number 2? Because the ASM
It's
or the
It's the 8.0 mile high of this, sold for 5.3.
oh yeah, the private sale, schmivate sale, whatever. Okay, but
Can we
yeah,
talk about how
it's-
Swag's not logged into his Heritage account, so we can't see his bid history on this?
Well,
item?
we know what he bid. He bid like 28,000 because he outbid me.
Wait, hold on. Yes, I did shill bid this thing. For
This
transparency.
never would have gotten to 4 million if it weren't for you two and your shenanigans.
I know. We
Listen,
hyped it
listen,
up.
you're
That's
right.
2 extra
You're right.
bids on that item, pumping it up.
I was
Hey.
I made people FOMO out at $28,000 when they were like, "Oh no, it's going to sell for that. I better get in on this."
Artificial interest, guys. You guys are criminals.
But either way, the Superman 1 9.0, 4 days left, so it's going to sell this week. I believe Thursday will be the day. Maybe I'll do a live stream if you guys are around. 4.86 is the current bid,
Wow.
which makes this, as Ryan corrected, the third most expensive comic book ever sold. A lot of people are talking about how this book is maybe going to set the record, which of course was set by the Action Comics #1 that sold for $6 million. Guys, what do you think about this? What do you think about bumps in Superman? Maybe we can relate it back to what we were talking about earlier with that Fantastic book getting the bump. I mean, interesting stuff.
To me, the interesting thing with this one, and this is why I posted about this one like late last night, was that this book had done nothing for like a week. It had maybe like a $50,000 bid like every couple days. But then all of a sudden, within one day, like within 24 hours now, it has jumped from 3.5 million to 4.8 million, 1.3 million in roughly 24 hours. Like all of a sudden there was a big flurry of action on this book. And I mean, who knows, maybe it was because of Collectors Summit. People got to go there and we're seeing it in person. Like, cause I'll say like the pictures
maybe there
that I
was a
saw,
backroom smoky meeting at Collectors
that could
Summit.
be like the pictures that I saw, like in the lighting that was there, it looked better in those pictures than it does in the scan. And so like, now I'll say like the spine still, I have thoughts on the spine, but like the actual like colors looked much brighter when I saw the pictures that people took that were in the case at Heritage.
Are we allowed to talk about that? I mean, Manu, you saw the book. Are you allowed to weigh in on this?
Listen, it's the ungraded truth, and it's not as though I'm talking about something that isn't real. So forgive me, anyone that's offended. But again, the people spending this kind of money, they're not going to know this conversation is happening. And, you know, Ryan, at one point in time on his channel, was going over this book, and he had noticed something towards the lower left of the book. And, you know, he was being kind. He said, I don't know if it's an artifact of the photo, but it looked like there was some tearing or some fraying or whatever word you want to use for what potentially might look like separation at the spine. Now, I had a chance to see the book in person, and I was very curious to see what the spine looked like. But the book was set up in this beautiful column against a wall with another display next to it. So you can't actually get your head around and look at it. But I did take my phone and my hand and put it in between the two columns and take 100 photos just to see if I could get a clear one of the spine. And like I said in the last episode, I have no idea how Golden Age books are graded. I don't know what curve they're graded on, but any book that I've ever looked at, if it had a spine like that, this book would not be anywhere near a 9.0. But again, I don't know what the people that have seen dozens of these books know about these books. Maybe all the spines on these books look like that. I'm not sure. And it doesn't look like it's completely split. It looks as though the cover wrap is like a double layer sort of situation, maybe like a harder stock. And it looks like the top stock has separated along the spine, but you can still see where the spine is actually connected. So this picture that I took of the bottom of the book, well into the staple and well above the staple, the top layer of the book has separated, and you could kind of see cardboard through it, like that color, craft paper color, not the actual color of the book. And if you have that picture and you want to pull it up, we can look at it.
Derek makes a good point.
Who said?
I said Derek makes a good point. He's like, let me stop you there. Number says 9.0.
This is true, and that's what the buyer is going to.
This is a good point. You're right there.
Yeah, exactly.
But to your point, I was going to ask you. Yes, can I pull up the photo? If you feel okay.
We didn't make it.
It
It's
was
the
publicly
book.
posted
It's
on
the
IG,
photo.
wasn't it?
No,
All right,
I did not. I never posted this. I shared
you
this
didn't post
privately
it?
only. I had my hesitations and my reservations about this picture. But guys, go ahead and look at it.
I mean, so maybe Ryan, you want to weigh in on this. I mean, there's the spine. Clearly, there's some discoloration or separation. I'm not going to say that's a spine split, but the color doesn't perfectly hit there. But for a Golden Age book, is the color supposed to perfectly hit?
I mean, there are plenty of Golden Age books that have a perfectly clear, like clean spine, you know, where they wrap around and you don't have that. Now, the thing is, I can't speak to a Superman one. Like Manu said, like,
Yeah.
there are certain books, and you know, like when you interviewed Matt Nelson, like they talk about like sometimes the books are graded against themselves, you know, like within that book. And for all I know, this is how Superman ones look. Like I mean, all the ones we see, like I think unlike most people, the ones we see are straight on front, straight on back in a slab, because that's, you know, most of us don't have one in hand. And so I can't really speak to if that is standard for this book. But I can say, like, there are plenty of Golden Age books. Like, I mean, my 9.0 Black Cat 50 doesn't have splits, you know, along the spine like that. But it's also, that's from 1954. It's not like it is a thicker cover stock like you have like in that period that you often see. So yeah, I mean, I can't really say how that would get graded, but that's the type of stuff that, you know, you just like as someone who doesn't see those, you know, that level of book in person. I mean, I feel like I can't really speak to it, but it's the type of thing that makes me just like a little nervous, you know, or I would at least, if I was bidding on it, I would want to know that stuff was there. And that's why I said, like, in my video, when I talked about that book, if I was bidding on that book, in like a legitimate bidder, not like my $20,000 bid, I would be calling Heritage and I would be asking for pictures along the spine. I would be asking for, you know, all kinds of stuff, you know, as much detail as possible to make sure I'm informed. But also, like we talked about earlier, probably a lot of the people that are going to be ultimately bidding on something like that, it's like a showpiece. Do they care? Maybe they do, but maybe they don't. And they want to be able to be like, hey, yeah, someone's, you're like, oh, this is my Monet, this is my Superman 1. Like that could be all it's really used for.
That's what it
Right,
is. The
but
buyer for this book is looking at it that way. And when they're done with it, like I said, when they feel their investment is appreciated, it's just going to go back to an auction house and it's going to sell to another similar sort of individual.
But
This is, yeah.
for Cosmic Trekker's comment, like, I mean, this is the thing, like, I can't agree with those comments where it says, like, if it's not a 9, it's not a 9. Don't tell me it's because of an age. Like, the way I always speak to that is that's like, say that's my opinion or that's your opinion. That's not the grading company's opinion. It's just, that's how they grade. That is the CGC grade or the CBCS grade or the PSA grade. And I think that's what people just need to accept, is that it's not the Automatic Comics grading company. It's not the Cosmic Trekker grading company. It's CGC. And you just have to know, like, this is how those companies assess these books and just move on from there. They're not going to change. Like, that's what they do. And so Golden Age books get graded differently than Silver Age, than Bronze, than Copper, than Modern. It's just, that is the way that it's done. And we cannot like it or whatever, but those are the facts of how these entities grade these books.
Absolutely. And when you look at that right there, I don't see a spine split. So do you really want to know what the side of your book looks like? No. You just look at the number. It says 90. It says I have the best copy in the world, and therefore you should pay for it. And people are definitely going to pay for it. Let's do this. Maybe kind of last minute predictions here. Do you guys see this beating 6 million? Is this going to be the world record comic book of all comic books?
Oh, I see it beating 6 million. And we are not calling, none of us are saying it's a spine split. Just want to be clear. Just showing a picture. That's all.
Yes.
I see it beating 6 million.
I mean, one of the things it's similar to, and this is where I feel like you need to have other examples. It's like, when you have some of the really modern books where when they are folded over, they get that whitening along the spine, and those books can still get 9/8. And it's like where the color kind of like, or the ink almost like breaks.
Yeah,
and that's where it's like, I don't know if that's just what that is. I don't have enough copies or whatever, or reference points to use. So
right.
But yeah, I mean, this thing is getting near the top of where I thought it was going to go. I had it at 4 to 5 million, and a day ago I would have thought I was right on target because it hadn't moved in a week. And then, but now, like, jumping up, like what was it, 1.3 million in a day? Now I'm like, man, I wouldn't be surprised if it at least breaks the 5.3. 6 is still, I mean, it's still 1.2 million away. Like, it could be people are trying to get their bids in ahead of time to like hold their spot, and maybe it doesn't get a flurry during the live.
I had the chance to get Nathan Howerton, the founder of Collector Summit, and who works at Heritage, on my show. I had a conversation with him about it, and he thinks that, like, it has a chance to do it. He doesn't know that if it can break it, but he thinks it definitely has a chance. I'm of the mind that, I made the joking prediction. I think there's going to be 5.999999. Like, I just don't know if it's like, this is going to be like the record-setting book. I mean, maybe, all you need is the 2 people. But to your point, Ryan, I mean, yeah, it's still 1.2 million away. That's still a lot of money. So it could just be one of those things where, like it goes up and, all right, hammer close, 4.8. It sells exactly where it is right now. Because the person who is bidding on this book could also be someone who, like we said, is that person that just wants it because it's a trophy for them. And I don't know if the person that has that kind of money is really the person that's going to be watching live on Heritage Auction and, like, actually hitting the bid button and that stuff. I think it's probably, hey, assistant, go make a bid on this thing that I want.
So it has to hammer at 5, right, to sell for 6, and the previous record is 6, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, 4 days left. We're getting close. Wow. Oh, God.
4 days left. It'll be on Thursday. So there we have it.
All right.
All right. Well, gentlemen, let's hop over to a next interesting topic. Speaking about maybe controversial, pseudo controversial CGC slab things. Ryan recently made some incredible videos about this Suspense Comics #3 situation where we went from a point 0.5 into a conserved 3.0. He made a great video about the series. You guys should definitely go check it out on his channel. But maybe Ryan, you can just kind of give us a quick little recap because I know you came out with some update in there. Maybe we just for the sake of updating the people, we can kind of let them know what the situation was with this particular book.
Sure. Yeah. So basically, there was a 0.5 that was missing, that where on the label for the 0.5 it said it was missing the centerfold and page 15. Then we had that book got sent in for conservation, had the conservation done, came back, got regraded, and came back a 3.0 conserved, and the label just said centerfold married. And so this all came down to like my commentary on this largely revolved around CGC identifying pieces that are married to these books. And so with this book, if you're not aware, it has kind of a special type of, we'll call it centerfold, but not really centerfold, where it's a centerfold story, where it's a wrap that then has another page glued onto it. And that's the page 15. And that can be separated or not, but like that's how it would have originally come. And so the question was, when this got regraded, was it identified that the entire centerfold was married, or like meaning including the page 15, or was it just identified that the centerfold in page 15 was original? And so like, you might think that that's not a big deal, but this is a book that in this condition is probably 50 grand. And so, and maybe more. And so it's like, these are big books. They like, details matter. That's kind of how I look at it. It's like details matter, small things matter. And so after I posted the video, I actually ended up getting to talk to the owner of the book. And I also talked to CGC. And so the owner of the book confirmed that they were able to acquire a centerfold with page 15, and they had that married in, and had the conservation done to it. And then when I talked to CGC, what they told me was that with this book, and this is where the confusion comes in, is that there are 4 ways that they identify this as, or that specific centerfold for this book. It's either pages 15 to 17, centerfold and page 15, centerfold, or 3-page centerfold. All of those are considered valid from CGC. And so the problem is that 3 of those are very similar, that you can, like the page 15 to 17 centerfold and page 15 and 3-page centerfold are all saying the same thing. Centerfold just by itself is ambiguous. And so my suggestion was that is that they just pick one. Having a consistent message, I feel, is always good, especially when you're dealing with things like this. But they did confirm that in this case, centerfold meant the centerfold wrap plus page 15. It's just that because those are all part of one story, they consider that part of the centerfold. But yeah, that's it. It's this type of like low level detail that you don't have. And so when you have something like this, that's such an expensive book where these small details matter. I think I said in the video I put out today, like, we know CGC has like a lot of these types of details. They have like lists of the manufacturing defects for different books and things like that. And it's like, if they publish something like that, I think that would be a huge amount of demand for that type of information out there, and would be absolutely great to have. But I mean, overall, I think like at the end, the story is that it's all, the book is all there. The centerfold in page 15 is identified as married. It's just that for this case, you have to know that centerfold can mean more than one thing. It could mean centerfold, or it could mean centerfold and page 15.
And I just float something out. I mean, this is the ungraded truth here, and it's often more fun to not know what actually happened and to throw the tinfoil hat on and talk about it. But I know that you can't say because you talked to the person who owns the book, but let me just throw it out there as somebody who's not connected to this person at all. But I don't know, man. When you go to GPA and you look at this book, you can't just find random sales of centerfolds and page 15s and all this stuff. I mean, I know pages are the hottest thing in comic books, but like, you can't just say, oh, I sure would love to replace my page 15 on my Suspense 3. Hey, let me go to the page 15 store and pick it up. Like, I'm just doing it for fun, guys. This is just for funsies.
I'm
He
saying,
said
I
that he
know
found a
what book
centerfold.
it came from. Like, I know what book it came from. He
Okay,
told me,
all
so
right.
I know it's legitimate.
All right. Suspense 3 owner, Ryan's friend confirmed. Ryan would defensive bid for this guy in a heartbeat.
Yo.
Hey, if that book came up for sale, I would be bidding on it. All right. So,
Yeah. All right. I just thought that was fun. We just floated out there. It is the ungraded truth.
It is.
yeah.
All
no,
right.
I mean, yeah, it's tough. It's like it's all these little fine details that go with this, and I always think like it'd be ideal if generally things went on the side of more detail. I feel like more detail is always better, but we know that isn't always the stance that gets taken. Like when the notes got taken off the labels and that kind of stuff. Like we know that isn't always the way that things go.
Well, kind of round it out here. I got 3 more interesting little topics that we're going to finish out with before we wrap up the show. And then we are going to give our official giveaway at the end of the show that Manu has from our last week's show, which is the ASM 316.
And we're adding to the giveaway because we got far more comments than
we are
anticipated.
adding to the giveaway.
Yeah.
Yes, that is very correct. We'll cover that when we get there. But Ryan, now the biggest card influencer there is on Instagram, and maybe Rob, you can talk about this because you are the card expert here. Shared a post of the latest Avatar: The Last Airbender Magic the Gathering set, the hottest, newest set. Forget Final Fantasy, forget Marvel. We're on to the new thing. And now we're on to Avatar. And we see that the chase card's selling for 10,000, 500, and 20,000. Absolute insane numbers going on in the Magic the Gathering. I would also like to point out that last episode, when I talked about the League of Legends card game, those booster boxes are up 66% on my hot tip. So,
Shilling booster boxes on Swagglehaus.
Filling booster boxes.
How many cases did you own before you pumped it on the last live?
Listen, okay, I will never disclose. I don't need to disclose. Okay, you look at the terms of service on my eBay store, and I'm allowed to pump up my own items on my own channel. So there you go. But Rob, what do you think about this latest set of Magic the Gathering? What's going on in trading card world, Pokemon, Magic cards? Why is all the money in cards these days?
It's always been there. We're always the more exciting, more transactional side of the collectible space. I was actually, I don't want to sidetrack this, but it was interesting to hear at the top when Manu talked about a trading area at Collector Summit, because that's very much a card thing. To see that creep into a comic book space, you don't hear that typically. These crazy short print Magic stuff go absolutely nutty on release, and these ones aren't serial numbered, correct? These are just.
I did not see a serial number on them. That's one of the things I was a little surprised about.
I think it's like the Soulstone one is not serial numbered, but the assumption is that there's like 100 of them or something. Yeah, I mean these crazy Magic super short print or the serial numbered stuff just go for insane amount of money. We've seen that time and time again, especially the Universes Beyond, if it ties to a very collectible property. So I'm a little surprised the Avatar went this strong, but I'm not
Avatar is a popular show. Like that's the thing. Like I'm seeing the stuff that's like shows that were really popular. I don't remember when Avatar came out, like 15 years ago, maybe even a little more than that, like the animation. But like, I mean, it feels like it's targeting like the early millennial, kind of age group is what a lot of this stuff is going for. It's like they've got money now and, can't afford a house. So you might as well buy some crazy Aang card.
Crazy because I just think that the Magic the Gathering cards, like everyone in Magic, like if you guys know like the culture within Magic, the Magic the Gathering players, like in comic books, have their own adage, which is like, the cards are meant to be played, like all these flippers, or it's like in comics, it's like, the comics are meant to be read. Like all these people are buying up these Superman ones, and I want to read my copy of Superman 1, so the people get really mad about it, but the real, and so those same people are very upset about Magic doing all these crossovers where they're like, oh, here's our Lord of the Rings set, here's our Marvel set, here's our Final Fantasy set, and now Avatar, and soon to be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But the reality is they just keep selling. Like the numbers are the numbers. Like it's crazy how much these cards are selling. You would never get a chase card in a Magic IP set that came out that, Tarkir or whatever the case is, that are selling for these types of numbers. Because you definitely get the collector side and the people who are fans of the IP coming in and buying up the stuff. And I don't know. I think it's cool, crazy. I mean, maybe if I was trying to just play the game, maybe I'd be upset, but I don't know. This is what.
I mean, what I'll want to see with it is like, as time goes on, and I'm talking about like a year, 2 years, 3 years, like if they keep putting out, like, it's like every time it's like some new one-off new IP, like do those cards end up holding value, or do they, it's like just everybody just jumps to the next thing? I mean, I was surprised how well it was like the black chocobo held its value so far. I think it's been like 3, 4, 5 months, and they're still going for like $8,000. It's like some of those cards are holding so far, and so it'll be interesting to see like long term if they do, or if they just kind of like continue to taper down.
Yeah. What do you guys think about all this, Manu? Rob, any other thoughts?
Rob? Oh,
People like Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy is great. I mean, they're
People
picking
like
good.
Final
I mean, they're
Fantasy.
picking good markets. Like Final Fantasy is awesome. Avatar's awesome. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is awesome. I mean, there's a lot of people that'll spend money on this stuff.
Yeah, buy vintage. Spend some money on vintage. Let's show some love to vintage too. It doesn't have to have a number stamped on it. Let's have some fun.
Well, Magic will continue to do collabs and interesting stuff, but they need to be careful to not overdo it. Unlike this company right here. Funko Pop is $241 million in debt as it issues a dire warning. Guys, we are, the death toll is ringing for Funko Pop potentially. This company is, definitely in trouble here. And I thought that we would just kind of talk about it. I don't know if you guys have too big of thoughts on Funko Pop, but like to me, if I just will kick us off, like the problem with this company, other than the fact that, I'm sorry, guys, Funko Pops suck. Like they're lame. Like if you own Funko Pops, I don't know what you're doing. Like go somewhere else on the con floor, buy the other stuff. But like, they just overprinted the stuff, and here's the thing that I'll set up for us to talk about. That's maybe a little more meat on the bone for us to have a conversation about. But I think one of the issues that this company faced is that they paid no attention to the secondary market, meaning they just printed line after line after line. They came out with new IPs and all this stuff, and they really didn't give much, pay much mind to the aftermarket hunt of stuff and how important it is. And I know that this kind of is like, maybe something that's not good to say, how important the speculator market is in the sustainability of your product that you create. Because let's be honest, like if you have a product, a toy line, whatever it is, Labubu's or Magic the Gathering trading cards, like if people are making money doing this stuff, that attracts other people. It just is. Like if there's like, oh, like this person bought this Funko Pop and then they sold it for 10x, like that brings people into that market. And there's a very fine line with companies that it's like, you got to allow the secondary market activity to foster itself and grow and actually have a market there, because that actually keeps you in the game longer, because people are constantly going for that chase. But Funko's didn't really do that. Now they're in trouble. Anyways, I'll kind of stop talking and kind of kick it off to you guys. It just reminds me of some interesting things of like overprinting, and is it like kind of an issue when all these publishers and comics are doing too many blind bags and you're just like oversaturating this stuff, and if you don't leave enough for the collectors out there and the flippers, dare I say, you end up kind of pushing people away from the hobby. Anyways, I'll kind of kick it over to whoever wants to pick this one up and talk about it.
I mean, I'm surprised Funko lasted as long as it did. I mean, I feel like that at least like it says something about the company. Like I would have thought that, like, because when people make comparisons to like Beanie Babies and that kind of thing, like, I mean, Funkos have been out for what, over a decade, maybe something like that. I mean, it's the type of thing that you would think would be more like Labubu, which seems like a flash in the pan, and it's kind of like pretty, dissipated quite a bit already. But it's crazy though. Like you go and look at like, oh, is there a Funko for this? And there always is, like for everything. Like it's insane how many of them are out there. But yeah, I watch Pop Comics on YouTube, and he, sells Funko Pops in his store and everything, and used to be like a big collector of them, but has kind of pared it down. And, just like hearing him talk about like the reduced demand for them, it's like it kind of, you could see it coming. Like he just said, people just weren't buying them anymore.
I saw that I talked about this on my video last Sunday. PSA stopped grading them. They are discontinuing their grading service on Funko Pops. They'll still do auto authentication on them, which I actually think is important, because anyone that's ever been in an auto line at a Comic-Con, you see how popular these things are from a baseline perspective. So I wonder what people are going to get signed in 10 years from now. Like what's everyone going to be lined up getting signed from their favorite actor or actress when Funkos don't exist anymore? Because I'm telling you, get in line for autographs at like New York Comic Con or something. There's just like people got wagon loads of Funkos that they're pulling around to get autographs.
Yeah,
it's wild. I don't know. You got thoughts, Manu?
I mean, I think you guys know my thoughts. This headline doesn't seem surprising to me. It was kind of a duh. It was kind of expected. I kind of looked at it all like Beanie Babies, even while the whole thing was happening. But it was just like, let live. Like if someone enjoys buying Funkos, great. I own 0 Funkos. I've purchased 0 Funkos. I'm not a Funko guy. Oh, I take that back. I do own 2. Hey, they did this thing called Soda Pops, I think, right? So they were in like a can, and they're actually adorable. They're really cool. And our friend RMS, who's with us in the chat, shout out Ryan, he actually gifted me 2, a Venom and a Carnage. Those are the 2 Funko items that I own that came in a can, and they're awesome, and I love them. I think they're great. I think they're cool. But the collectability I always questioned. And from the company side, it's like, isn't it just history repeating itself? Like it is literally Beanie Babies, is it not? Like it turned into a craze, and then the company sees that everyone's buying them up. And so, short term, or I don't know what the decision making on the company is. Like I agree with what you're saying. The company could have had some foresight and kind of stretched this out to make it last, like create some longevity, but they just decided to print as much because people were consuming all of it. And then a thought occurs to me, this is kind of an aside. It's like, while you were saying that, I was like, then how come Pokemon is so resilient to this? And before anyone says anything, I thought to myself, oh, well, Pokemon is its own IP. Funko Pops is a cute toy of everything else popular in the world. Pokemon is actually an IP. It started, it grew, it became this thing. Now, that doesn't mean it's not susceptible to, some sort of bubble bursting or something like that, whatever. But I think that is a key difference, though. This is a toy of a bunch of existing IPs.
And I'm sure that goes into their costs, like they have to pay someone for their likeness or whatever else to make a Funko. Whereas Pokemon, they're making their own things. Like they don't have that they have plenty of costs, I'm sure, but they don't have that as part of it.
Yeah, that's a good part of it. That's a good point as well. So not too many thoughts. I felt like it was just a matter. I mean, I didn't know the company was in dire condition. I didn't know that they were massively in debt or anything. I just figured the enthusiasm would eventually subside because there's a lot of Funkos out there. And maybe there are super rare and super limited ones that still would be hunted and sought after. I don't know much about that environment to know that. I have some of my Beanie Babies from the 90s, though, and I love my bat. I love the bat.
Well, we'll have to pay attention to what happens with Funkos. If they can dig themselves out of this ditch, maybe they have to just go to a new holder or CGC case. Is that a good segue? I don't know, but I'm going to go with it anyways. Next topic, and the final topic before we give our book away, I want to revisit just this book that we talked about recently that was the More Fun Comics 73. If you guys remember this one, the first appearance of Speedy, also Aquaman and Green Arrow, sold on Heritage for $40,800. maybe a little bit lower on the end of it. And the person who bought it was like, you know what? I'm going to send this over to CGC and get that 0.5 bump and put it in this new sweet holder, that sweet, sweet, sweet blue label. I'm going to hold on to this grail for years. Oh, wait, never mind. I'm going to list it on Elite Comics and list it for $59,999. Nice little 20K potential
Easy
bump right
20K.
there. Claimed via DM, sold. I
game.
don't know what it ended up selling for, but yeah, easy, GG, easy, as Rob says. And I don't know where I'm going with this one, other than like, you know, we kind of talked about like the fact that it's like same book, different case. I'm gonna pay 20K more. Like, you know, who are the people? Like, why are they not paying attention to this stuff? And I just think that that's funny, you know, and maybe it kind of brings us full circle of like at the end of the day, people are doing things, you know, and you just gotta be paying attention. I guess.
Do you
I don't
really
know.
want to know that that used to be a PSA 4.5?
And a CBCS 4.5.
And I'm gonna add some. That book. I spoke to some people. That book, multiple times, was requested to be looked at for the possibility of a bump. And CGC on several occasions had said, through the case, of course, that they don't think it has the possibility of a bump, and in fact, it might go down. So no one ever tried it.
Hey,
Well,
no risk, no reward, right? You know,
right?
take the gamble.
Now, when I'm, you know, a little bit of flavor I'm adding to it is, well, then PSA comes to town. And since, you know, no one ever tried taking it from CBCS to CGC because CGC said it's probably going to go down. It might not even remain the same 4.5. PSA says, hey, we'll go ahead and take the crossover, does the crossover, ends up in a PSA slab, and all of a sudden CGC's fine with giving it a 5.0. I'm not saying that it's because they're trying to, you know, get one over on PSA or just have some fun with it, but it was presented to CGC multiple times, and CGC said that they don't think it has a shot. But again, like you said, no risk, no reward. Once it came out of the case, who knows what it looked like out of the case? Someone took the gamble and it got the bump, but that bump happened after PSA came to town. I think that's interesting.
Very interesting. And I don't know what the moral of the story is, guys.
Buy the label, not the book.
Buy the label, buy the grade. Do you really want to know? That it always comes back to, do you really want to know, Rob?
Might be one of my best quotes ever in a Swagglecast.
I think it's probably the greatest statement ever made. All right,
You've
well,
gotten more run
gentlemen,
off that quote, I think, than anyone else.
yeah, who didn't? You know, it's one of those you look back at like the Dark Knight, and it's like, you know, you either die a hero or see yourself become the villain, and you look back at that quote and you're like, wow, just every year it goes by is like so much more true. It's like the "Do you really want to know" quote has that same effect to me. All right, well, before we wrap up the show, we got a book to give away.
3
from
books.
Manu. I got the YouTube random comment picker. Last episode, we said that if you leave a comment on a show that we had talking about that ASM 316 swamp situation, we would give you guys the opportunity to win the book that Manu had in his hand. We kind of did it sloppily, so there was like 2 videos of it. So we're going to give away 2 books. We're going to do the one that has the more views as the main grand prize, and then the stream will be the second prize. But Manu, you want to kind of recap what you got given away, and then we'll kind of
absolutely. So the first giveaway we're doing is off of the 15-minute video, right? The one that was clipped because that one had more comments, right? And
Correct.
So since the story was about a 316, we're giving away a raw 316 newsstand, and then also a raw 315 newsstand, because this one's the actual first Venom cover, the small Venom. And then, but since there were so many comments, which was amazing, thank you guys, and great opinions, great stuff, freaking awesome. And Timothy, what's up? And so on the main one, we'll do the main thing, right? But since I couldn't find a clean way to organize so many comments, we're just going to do it twice, and we'll go to the mainstream, which has fewer comments, and we'll give away something else. And what we'll do there is we'll and hopefully it goes to someone that doesn't already have a PSA slab, because basically it's not about the value. It is a beautiful book, but it's going to be someone's first PSA slab, which would be great. So sorry, it's not a super expensive book, but it is one of my favorite books. But I will tell
Pretty
you
good book.
this. It's a 9.4 Web of Spider-Man 1 newsstand, and it looks gorgeous in the slab because, you know, the red here really pops with the red. But let me tell you guys, if I were submitting this book, maybe give it you do whatever you want, but maybe I would have pressed it again, so on and so forth. But if I were submitting this book to CGC, there's a good chance that I was anticipating a 9.8 on this. This is going to be the best looking 9.4 anyone's ever seen. Like, this thing is gorgeous. But hopefully someone that's never had a PSA slab gets it, because they'll get to experience it, and it's a gorgeous book. So for the secondary video, we'll give away this 9.4 newsstand in a PSA slab.
All right, sounds good. Well, I got the link for the first video. I'm going to paste it in this random YouTube comment picker. I hit the fetch button and I say anything goes, right? I think that's what we said.
Anything
I'm gonna
goes. You
not-
guys could.
Yeah.
We should talk
I
about.
want to
wait.
see it go to one of us.
But we should talk about whoever wins. You have to contact me on Instagram. We got to find some way to make sure it's you, because 30 people can say it's
100%.
you. We figured it out, but it has to be on Instagram. I don't know how to talk to you on YouTube, so you have to follow me and DM me on Instagram.
There you have it. No including replies, no duplicates. Let's gather all the comments. How many people potentially could win this? Look at that. 342 potential comments.
Thank you,
And
guys.
without further ado, let's pick a winner. What is it going to say? Kenny Nicely 9676 says, this is the type of stuff that keeps me from sending in a stack of keys for grading. Putting the right book with the right grade in a protective case is literally their one job, and they can't even get that right with a face palm. I can't disagree with what Kenny has to say.
Congratulations!
They got
Here is
one
a
job.
graded book.
No. He's getting the 2 raws. He's getting the
he
2
gets the raw.
raws.
He gets
All right,
the
Yeah.
that's the Ross. All right, that's
So there you
perfect.
go.
So who was that? Kenny, congratulations.
Yeah, Kenny Nicely 9676. Go give Manu a shout. Slide
Please.
into his DMs, and congratulations on the win of that book.
Very cool.
You guys say some things as I queue up the next winner.
Okay, well, as you cue
Congratulations
that
on
up.
your win.
Yeah, congratulations. But as you cue that up, I also want to say shout out and a thank you to Tom, Comic Tom, and Golden Age Guru, because on their show last week, they shouted out the ungraded truth. And Tom said he's been enjoying it. And Golden Age and Jeff had some great things to say about us as well. So that was really kind. Appreciate it. There it is there.
There it is right there. Of course, the #1 show in the world. And you know that because you have viewers like Comic Tom and Golden Age Guru.
Dude, at Collector Summit, people were telling me they're enjoying the podcast. I love that.
Nice.
I love it.
It's fantastic.
All right. Well, I got the comment picker refreshed here. I got the other video, which was the live stream.
Yes.
And I'm going to put that as our runner-up prize. I paste it in there. We hit fetch, and it tells me X, and I don't know why. So we're going to refresh it here, and I'm going to do this again, and it tells me X again.
Whoa.
Keep talking, guys. Keep
I wonder-
talking. Dead air.
Is it possible you can only use it one time? Is it like something like that where it's
It
like,
could be. It could be. Listen,
go to a
listen,
different browser?
The Ungraded Truth is not sponsored yet, so I'm not paying for
You can't
the
be paying
services.
premium prices for this
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. We don't.
More super chats.
Yeah, it took me 3 episodes to figure out how to make the mic work. Okay, we're figuring things out. You know,
Stop trying to make fetch happen. Exactly.
Okay, well, luckily, I just randomly Googled another random comment picker website. So
dang, my
as
guy's
you do,
fast. Nice.
You just kind of keep using free trials with different emails, and that's how you get, your workaround here. So I think if I just do this and hit pick a random YouTube comment, it'll do it.
Okay.
Loading comments. Oh, here we go. Wolf Blitz 6530. I think the owner should have sent those books back and get the books switched. They did get a 9.8, so they should have been happy with that. Awesome show. Subscribers growing to infinity. 100% agree.
Right.
We are going to infinity. But Wolf Blitz 6530. Thank you for your comment. Congratulations. You are the second runner-up hit Manu in the DMs
Yes, please.
in
And
order to
congrats.
get your book.
Yeah, like Cosmic
Congratulations.
Trucker says, confirmed. Wolf Blitzer is a comic fan.
Confirmed.
So
Well, fellas-
congratulations, Wolf Blitzer, and thank you everyone for participating. Swag, thank you for making that happen. Sorry for cutting you off.
No, that's all I got. That's the
Okay.
end of the show, guys. We did
I
it.
love
We
it.
talked about so many things.
fantastic.
Anything to wrap up before we go?
I put out a video today. Go check it out. It covers the things that we talked about with the Suspense 3. Hopefully my voice recovers sometime within the next week, but hasn't yet.
All right. Well, to everyone in the chat, thanks so much for hanging out. Be sure to subscribe to the Ungraded Truth YouTube channel. Get on board to the fastest growing show in the entire universe. And until the next time, catch you on the Ungraded Truth. Detective Comics set a record for 1.8 million. Nobody really cares.
Who are annoyed that people are asking them questions, is this book bad? That question didn't exist a year ago.
Somebody submitting like 25 vintage books and getting 15 9.9s.
We always think, how could it ever get crazier? And then it always does.